Hello, everybody, and welcome to the return of Darf Talks. I am DarfMike, and I'm joined by Jared
Hey
MAC
guys.
Schneider, coming at us. Coach of Singularity, if you don't know him. They are a squad consisting of Sheikh Zula, Floppy, OC, Ryan, Hydrex, and, of course, Coach Mac. Most famous, perhaps, for chugging a Mountain Dew Amp Game Fuel on stage at the Global Challenge. That clip is immortal. I might find a way to insert that into this. I don't know if I can do that. Figure it out. But he's the coach with all the charisma.
For Singularity, that is absolutely massive. Okay, all right then. Right.
He's loud. You know him from his screams in the background of the America's Minor or Global Challenge and relegation, all those wonderful things.
Look at the guns.
Look at the guns on Mac. Look at that
there
guy.
you go, Mac.
He's one of the newer coaches on the block, and we're gonna peek inside his brain today. So thanks for coming on, Mac.
Well, thanks for having me, man.
So I want to get started. First, just very basic question I like to ask all first-time guests. Where did the name come from? At first, I figured that was probably just your name, and then I found out your name's Jared, so story time.
Yeah, everyone thinks my name is actually Mac, but it comes from when I first started ESEA. I couldn't really pick an alias, so I just picked Macaroni. And for years, everyone just called me Macaroni, but then it just got, like, people just called me Mac for short, basically. And so I just kind of stuck. And then when I added, like, the -1 part, it was because I didn't, like, if I ever got an HLTV, my thing was I didn't want it just to be Mac because it's just too broad. Or, like, if I wanted to build a brand one day, it'd be way too broad just with Mac. So I just originally it was Mac 51, which was the number I wore in, like, sports that I played, but I changed it to Mac 1 because I thought it looked better.
Okay. Mac 1, I mean, honestly, you add an H on there and you're going fast, right? Pretty close to that. So, all right, so attached to the 1, Mac 1. Coming through, might have to edit it in your little name tag because right now.
No. Mac, it's just Mac. You
Just
can call
Mac.
me Mac. Yeah,
Alright.
don't worry about it.
All right, so you guys, you obviously as a coach, you're relatively new to the scene, or I mean, I don't know exactly. When did you start competing?
Started competing when I was 16. I started playing ESEA when I was 15. I just started with some open teams, and then eventually I made intermediate, and I started becoming the laughing stock of all my friends pretty much because I was the kid that was stuck in intermediate while all my friends were in main. And for like 5 or 6 seasons, I was in intermediate, and I finally made main, and I kept bouncing between teams, and I just kept team hopping basically, and eventually I just decided to quit and work a Target retail job, which was not the play. And I was playing open with my friends, Stellar, Robbie, Thief, and Riku. And we ended up winning, and Singularity but basically Ryan and I talked, and I wanted to start coaching, but I didn't have the experience, and he just kind of let me try out, I guess. Just that's history.
Yeah, that's a stacked open squad. Okay. So you just connected with Ryan on a personal level, and this was at what stage of the team? Was this right after Ryan had joined, or when did you come on?
I came on in October of last year, I believe.
Okay.
Ryan was on the team since I think April. He replaced a proto, and I've known Ryan literally since I started ESEA. He was like pretty much part of like the first friend group I ever had on ESEA. So yeah, I've known him for pretty much 4 years now. So
Okay. So the deep connection there, and what made you want to get into coaching?
Honestly, when I was playing, I loved being an IGL because I loved the leading aspect of everything, and that kind of made me want to coach because I knew like I could help, like, but I wasn't good enough ever to like play at a pro level, but I know I could have helped at a pro level, like, so just like emotional leadership, just like looking at vetoes, just shit, like basic shit like that.
And so when you were making that transition from player to coach, right, you have no coaching experience, but you're coming onto this team. If you were coming on in October, that was midway through that MDL season, right, which was a pretty exciting MDL season for Singularity. How did you approach the challenge of becoming a coach? Like, was there something in particular you looked to? Was there a particular experience you drew on? How did you sort of figure that one out?
Just kind of went with the flow. I just, I would always ask for criticism from my teammates, and they'd always criticize me, and I'd always take it well, and I'd always just try to work on what I could, and because I always want to be the best version of myself, and that's kind of why I lost all the weight and stuff like that. I like obsessed with being the best version of myself, so I just take criticism really well, and I asked everyone to criticize me constantly because I was new and I didn't have any experience doing it, and just just kind of went on from there.
Okay. So I want to get into that's sort of your introduction into the team, and this is actually a great point to hop on. This is sort of where I was planning to hop into the team history. So we're talking about right now. We're talking about sort of the tail end of that MDL season. This is your first season with the team. You come on. You guys make it to MDL land. You were the third place team, I believe. You weren't playing in the finals that time around, but you were playing in relegation and you were playing in the Global Challenge. So you're coming in. It was a really that team. I think the best word to describe that iteration of Singularity is just cocky.
Yes. Yeah, that was definitely the cockiest lineup we've ever had. Basically, the way Vanity would call is he would find the worst player on the other team and we'd run at him 15 rounds in a row or 30 rounds in a row. So that was pretty much how we played that entire season. So very cocky.
Yeah. Okay. So that was like, I mean, you just came in with a heck of a lot of swagger. Obviously, you as a player and as a person and as a coach kind of feed into that energy and feed off of that energy, and that's very much like on brand for the Mac that I know. That was a really promising relegation. You guys came so close. I remember that road game where it seemed like all of the energy and favor was on your side, and then it just kind of flipped, and you guys got rolled in the reverse. And that was, would you describe that as kind of like a realization moment or like a maturing moment? Like, what was the response to that? Obviously, you lost that game. You guys didn't wind up making it through Pro League relegation, but it seemed like a team of such promise. So what were you feeling as a takeaway from that?
I think we were all pretty heartbroken. I know like a couple of us were way more upset than others. Like going into the land, we 100% thought we were making pro. Everybody thought we were making pro, like 100%. So when it didn't happen, it was literally like everyone's reality basically just got crushed because we were so confident that we were going to make pro. And I think moving on, I think the team knew a couple of us were going to get picked up by Swole Patrol because we knew at the land that Freakazoid was going to leave for Ghost. So we figured that was just going to happen. It did. Vanity and Food ended up getting picked up, and then we had to go into rebuilding mode. So, which kind of sucked because we were really looking forward to take it to the next season, and like we thought no other team would have beat us, literally none.
I like that confidence. Of course, Furia was coming up, so that was a little bit of
no.
at the time. You guys got your first dose of Furia. Were you actually with the team in Atlantic City? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
So that was the first dose of Furia, but at the time they weren't really like they were good. But they weren't as fearsome as obviously they became.
Yes, now, like number 7 team now or something. Peak 5.
Something wild. When you ran into them at that event, did you like have an idea of what was coming, or what were you thinking about them? Because they were the hot team coming out of Advanced, right? Like everyone was sort of talking about them. Were they on your radar at that point?
Yeah, I think me and Vanity especially thought they were good. I always had thought like Yuri Queserato and. Yeah, just Yuri and Queserato were going to be like the next hot things. Like when they first came to NA, yeah. So we didn't expect to honestly beat them. Like us getting that map win over them, in my opinion at least, was like really shocking, especially on cash because they were a very good cash team and we were kind of subpar. And so when we were up like 10-1, I think it was 10-1 and they called attack, and we were literally just so confident. We won cash, and then we thought we were going to win the series. Just lost it. So thought we were going to lose the series. We won the first map, and then we lost the series. So
okay. So that was the Atlantic City land. For anyone who doesn't know what I'm talking about, there was the Nerd Street Gamers Grand Championship last season. Was a 30K in Atlantic City in December, and that was sort of the last hurrah for old Singularity with Vanity and Food. You had Zelsis filling in
for Hydrex. Yeah, he was in Hawaii.
Right. And so that was sort of a last run. That land also featured a pug mix called Dripper Drown, and which was like B's Money Crew Redux. Server. Yep. And then there was Furia, obviously there, and so that was an interesting land. But then beginning of January, as you said, Vanity and Food leave for Swole Patrol. Eventually United, they get poached. They move on. Now we're talking about the rebuilding phase. You guys initially brought on MOTM and Infinite. Now, MOTM you'd seen play in relegation at the finals. Well, not in relegation, but in the finals and then in the Global Challenge, filling in for Swole Patrol. So that's sort of an obvious connection. But what was the process about finding, I guess, initially what made you bring on MOTM and Infinite, and then why didn't those players work out?
Well, we brought on MOTM because like he's IGL'd in the past. Like he was IGLing on his main team that won main. I think he IGL'd for a little bit in MDL. So we knew he could kind of do it. There was literally no other options. Like absolutely zero other options for IGL. So we kind of had to take a gamble on him. With Infinite, we everyone on the team knew he was very good. OC teamed with him in the past, so he knew just how good he could be. I mean, he was literally owning on Space Station.
Right.
Like,
good old
he got
Ethereum Esports.
Yeah, he ended up getting kicked from that team because of like just personality conflicts, basically. So we just thought like that's pretty much it was between him and Floppy, but Floppy didn't want to leave the team or leave Virio or whatever it's called, Virio Pro. So we just ended up sticking with Infinite because he was like the most talented. Because like Food was pretty much our carry kinda, so we needed another one. Okay. Always gonna have a carry. That's the Singularity secret. Always have to have a carry.
Always have a carry. And is that torch now passed to Floppy?
Yes, of course. He's set up in every store spot.
There you go. What wound up happening with Infinite that led to the change with Floppy? Was it just Floppy becoming available? Obviously, at the time, the announcement from both sides was that it was just didn't quite work out, personality conflict, philosophy of differences. Was there a particular motivating factor, or just didn't work out at the time?
The personality conflicts really. I know that he's changed now, and he's much better with his personality, especially with Lazarus, because he would not have lasted on Lazarus if he had the same personality. So I'm pretty sure when we cut him, it was kind of like a wake-up call that like he really has to fix his attitude. It was mainly just the fact that he had a poor attitude on the team. So, and then we were talking to Floppy a little bit, and like they started 0-4, and he was like, "Fuck this, get me on your team," pretty much. So
that sounds like Floppy.
Yep.
All right, so Floppy comes in, and then the other big piece, of course, the big puzzle piece was Sheikh Zula. When did you said at the time when you were looking for an IGL initially, MOTM was the only option you really had out there. So when did Sheikh Zula come onto the radar?
So Sheikh Zula, I was actually watching him since he won Advance. Like I had my eye on him because when he beat Furia with that like ragtag squad of just like MDL rejects almost, it was like insane to me, and I wanted to try him out when we stuck with Ian basically, but my team just didn't think he was good enough, and I was like, you guys were going to miss out if we don't pick him up now, and we didn't pick him up, and basically he took that ragtag squad of MDL. When I say rejects, I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean like they were at the top at one point and they just kind of like fell back down to like mid-tier MDL. So he took that team intact, playoff spot, and we played him in playoffs. And I thought what he did with that team, if he could do that with that team, I thought he could just make us so much like better. I thought he could like if he had the tools of all four of our players, like we'd just be a really good team. And it's working very well right now. As we're like, I think 35th in the world right now, and it's the highest we've ever been rated. So. Yeah.
I mean, from my perspective as a commentator, that whole team was super exciting, and that they just kind of, I mean, they were the move-up team, and you always love to see them succeed. That's
the biggest thing. You don't see move-up teams ever like go 5th seed, 4th. Like they went 12-5 or 11-6 or something.
Yeah,
it's insane.
So Sheikh, the thing I'm kind of curious about is Sheikh as a style, as an IGL calling style, is very different from what Vanity was, or even really what MOTM was in the
polar opposites.
So far different. Like much more slow paced, set strats, timing based strats, running the clock down. Whereas with Vanity, it was like, all right, hit him again, just go fast. So what was that adjustment like for the team? For a team that played with a lot of individual flair and a lot of like just go out and kill somebody, to transition to a much more, I guess, regimented system?
Structured style, yeah. It was very interesting at first. I think for the first week we weren't very good, but we were improving, and like we kind of had to adjust to it basically because Ian at MOTM called very fast. Vanity called the fastest, so it was like going from fastest to slowest. And the way that we play now is very good. Like every call he makes, I feel has a reasoning behind it. I like the slower pace play personally because in NA teams get antsy and they literally just give you free picks and they literally just you'll win if you play slow.
Mm-hmm.
Like just because they'll peek into you every single time. It's just how it works. But yeah, just kind of how to adjust to it basically.
You guys, when you first brought on Shake Zula, there was you guys went out to Copenhagen Games and had a boot camp previously with Shake, right? What was that whole process? I mean, when you talk about it in like more traditional sports, you talk about an install when a new coach comes in, the install of like the playbook and whatnot. What was that install period like with Shake?
We kind of just had like a couple days, and we did server time every single day, and we still do server time every single day, which was different with MOTM and Vanity. Like with those two rosters, we didn't really do server time that much or get really productive server time. But we kind of just like shared our strats, shared his strats, and we just kind of really worked because we had only had him on our team for 2 weeks, I think, when we played Copenhagen Games. So really, we just tried to like use what we already knew, we're comfortable with, like some of the new stuff. Yeah, it was just pretty much a mix, I guess.
Okay. And then Copenhagen Games obviously wasn't quite the result you were hoping for, but it was still international experience, and that's one of the things that's sort of been exciting about you guys, and has been something that's great to watch, is that usually North American teams at this level don't really get the chance to play too many international lands. Like maybe they qualify for WESG, maybe they make Global Challenge. But you guys have done WESG, you've done Global Challenge, you've done Copenhagen Games. You obviously were just in the minor, which we're going to get to. That's way down the road. But you're competing on an international level in a way that few teams at this level ever get a chance to. So for Copenhagen Games, that was sort of like, I guess, the start of a pretty serious land run or series of lands for you guys. Although there was a pretty big break between that. What's that experience like, going abroad and competing? Well,
actually, with Copenhagen Games, we're really lucky because we have a Danish-based org with Singularity. So they flew us out because they wanted us to win, basically just to have their Danish US team just stomp out every other Danish team that was there. So fortunately, it didn't happen, but that is what it is. But yeah, like Copenhagen Games, I mean, we're really only like a team for 2 weeks, and people don't understand that like we weren't gonna play to our peak level, and that's kind of why I think personally that's why we didn't make playoffs, was because we weren't even a team for like 3 weeks, a month. Like, and I think we played X Dragon, or not X Dragonfly, Fragsters. Thank you. Yeah, I said Dragonfly because he literally fucking demolished us that series. But X Fragsters, yeah, they've been a team for like literally at the time it was at least a year, at least. So just kind of that kick started the experience, I think. And like it was really important to get that because that was also Shake Zula's first like land, like not a local land, but like an actual land. So it just helped everything, like helped everyone just basically morph as a team. That was kind of what morphed us together.
Okay. So I mean, obviously he's coming from, as you said, he came off a really promising season with Intact. But at the same time, he was a player who had just moved up. He was a player who just had a good run with Intact. He's coming into a team with players who've been competing in MDL for a while, who are a little more experienced, have a little bit more proven, I guess I would say. Was there any sort of, I guess, resistance would be the word to that initial install of like, all right, who is this guy? Let's see how this goes. Or was everyone just like immediately willing to buy in?
Everybody but me was like, let's see how this guy is. Let's see if he's as good as you say he is. Because I was watching his demos, and this guy had the best flashes in the world at the time when I saw it. And I was like, okay, wait, I got to see a demo to see if they're actually legit. This guy literally set up all 4 of his teammates, and that's kind of what we needed, was like a super selfless player. And so he just set up, and I knew immediately he'd be the perfect fit. And I was telling everybody, just pick him up. Don't want him to like, because it was kind of like weird because I personally thought he wasn't going to say yes because I thought he would stick with Intact. But so that's why I was trying to tell everybody, just say yes before he changes his mind, and we can, lock him up instead of putting him on trial. But we ended up sticking him on a 2-week trial, and I think after we won the Mythic Cup, everyone was like, let's go with him. So, I mean, realistically, I don't know why they didn't just immediately pick him up, because we literally had no other options for IGLs.
So maybe a little bit of initial resistance, but won him over.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. So then obviously you come back from Copenhagen Games. Getting back to the chronology, we're building this timeline here. You come back from Copenhagen Games, you've got the MDL season going on, and that was a really strong MDL season for you guys, obviously. Came out 13-4. I believe you wound up the 2 seed based on head-to-heads. Had a really solid run through the initial online playoffs. Beat New Identity, and then ATK. I've actually written them as 10s TK in my notes.
That's what they are. They're what they were in playoffs pretty much. The 10 dropped 40 frags on Vertigo versus us.
That was insane.
Oh, it was rough, but yeah.
That was interesting as well, because there was a map that they really hadn't played previously, and then he dropped 40, and they were like, all right, I guess we play Vertigo now, because you guys were banning to Vertigo very intentionally.
Yeah, kind of. Vertigo is just a weird map. The teams that don't play it are the teams that are harder to beat than the teams that actually do play. It's just how it feels like to me. Like, 'cause we played Sharks in LAN, and they've never played it, and they literally stomped us out. So it's always the teams that don't play Vertigo that are harder to beat, in my opinion.
That's interesting. I wonder why that is tendency-wise. Do you like notice any specific tendency? Like, is it like because you don't have set plans, they play a certain way?
Yeah, it's partially that, because we do a lot of like anti-stratting. That's kind of what Lampone helps with. But yeah, just have to do like Jesus Christ. I'm sorry.
No worries.
I'm so tired.
Take your time.
Yeah, like there's like no tendencies you can really watch for. Basically, you're like, you can't watch any set plays, executes, because they just don't know how to play the map. Like they just don't know how to play it.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so now chronology wise, we're at the global challenge. We're at the finals. First of all, the NBL finals, obviously huge match, and then the global challenge. Now, going into this, you guys were pretty confident. Obviously, you were up against Furia, who are a ridiculously strong team at this point. They're super proven at this point. They're HLTV top 5, or I think they were 7 at that point, or something along those lines. But you just got in the news like the day before you showed up at the tournament that Abel J couldn't get into the country, and so Gary was stepping into his role. And so I know we were talking about it before the match, but that had inspired new confidence. How are you thinking about, first of all, how are you thinking about the going into the matchup before the Abel J news, and then what were you thinking about it afterwards?
We knew it was going to be a really tough match, but we were very confident that we were going to win. Because we've played against Furia more than any other team ever has, pretty much, because we literally played them the second they got to NA with Spaka, and then the NSG, just we constantly played. So we knew how they played, so we were very confident that we were going to beat them. So yeah, we pretty much anti-stratted for 2.5 weeks on them, just solely focusing on them. Server time was solely focusing on stuff that would work against them. So yeah.
So now that's almost interesting, because obviously they came in with Gary, bit of a wrench in the works. Do you think that actually changed their playing tendencies, so that that undid a little bit?
Had to throw everything out. Had to throw everything out.
Oof.
It sucked.
Was that, so
yeah.
That's weird. Are you excited that Gary's in the server? Or are you like, I don't know how this is gonna go? Is it just a wild card?
We were super stoked. I mean, no offense to Gary or anything, because he played amazing, but we thought he was just gonna bot out, and it was gonna be not free, but a lot easier.
Yeah.
But then when we played Train, our plan on Train was to hit inner a lot, and then Vinny was inner, and then it was not Gary, and then it was Que Serato another round, and it was they were literally playing Russian roulette with her, or just a roulette with her spots, pretty much.
That's right. And Vinny dropped 40 that match.
45, I think.
45.
He had the highest LAN rating ever. So
that was absurd. I remember that. I'm just pulling his stats.
Yeah,
42.
It was
42.
absurd.
Wasn't quite 45.
42.
Still, though, it was absolutely ridiculous. It was the one-man show, and then they kind of rallied off the back of that. So obviously that one doesn't go the way you were hoping for. That one's pretty devastating. This felt like a really good chance for you guys to make pro, to sort of make right, I guess, the sins of the previous Singularity in the last relegation. It was all right, here's our redemption chance. Doesn't play out. How are you feeling when that happens? Because obviously you've still got a chance at pro. You've still got relegation, although that's going to be a very tough tournament. But this was the easiest road, and it doesn't work out. What's the mood in the team like at that point?
Mood in the team, I think everyone was fine. A couple of us were pretty sad. I know I was like I was literally devastated. Like when we lost, because I really thought with Gary in it, that was it. Like that was for sure. We were making pro. Like we prepped so hard. We worked so hard. We busted everyone had above 90, 100 hours. I think a couple of us had 120, 130 before we came. I was so confident that we were gonna win, but just didn't work out how we wanted to, and I was devastated. But obviously, we still have relegation, and there's two spots, maybe three, because the ghost spot. No, nobody knows what's going to happen with that. So maybe three spots in relegation. We'll see. But yeah, it was just kind of rough for like the night, and then I just kind of realized, it sucks, but we still have relegation. We still have the minor. We can't fret on this.
Okay, so then going into Global Challenge, how much work were you putting into Global Challenge? Obviously, your eyes are on relegation, your eyes are on the minor. You knew both those things were coming up. Global Challenge for you guys was still a chance to compete against some really big teams. Notably, you had Vitality there, even though they were sort of half out to lunch during the tournament.
Yeah.
You had Furia still there. You had Spirit. You had Sprout. So what were you guys thinking going into that tournament about about your chances and B about the motivations going through with it?
Well, we thought if we won the finals of MDL, we would have had the free group, which was the Fury of Vitality group. So we would have just had to play Vitality, Chiefs, and ATK, I think. And ATK had their coach, TC, obviously. But we drew the harder group, and either way, we kind of expected it to make it out, but we didn't do any work. We underestimated Spirit a lot, and they kind of just hit us with a trade. So yeah, we didn't really do any work at all for like MDO Global Challenge. We were so focused on what's it called, finals and the.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that makes sense. As much as Global Challenge is a nice prize pot, obviously the lofty goal of Pro League and of potentially making the majors, maybe a little bit higher motivation.
Yeah,
just a pinch.
That's the problem with Global Challenge. I feel like you have to have finals after the Global Challenge because it's just like. The teams that at least play in the finals, which makes up half the teams, they just don't care about the Global Challenge. Swole Patrol didn't care last time there was the Global Challenge.
They had certain
we kind of cared, but we only cared because we wanted to beat VP really bad because it was like beating the legends that we were watching forever. But I mean, in all actuality, we really didn't care how we placed. So.
But do you think so? That's actually an interesting question for me because obviously this is something I've given a decent amount of thought to, especially after the whole Vitality shenanigans. We'll call it that to be charitable. The people have been talking about moving the finals to after the Global Challenge. Do you really think that would make teams care more?
I think so. Yeah.
Why?
Or just because it would almost be like a warm up for the teams in the finals. You have like a nice little group stage. It lasts about three days, right? It's 2-day group stage or the 1-day playoffs. So you have that nice little, like warm up almost, and then you go in the finals, and like you don't not want to try before the finals because it's just gonna sloppy like tendencies and like shit you're gonna do. It's gonna make you play sloppy in the finals. So I think that honestly really helped because it's just basically teams getting a nice warm up and like teams are going to care because they're not going to want to play like shit before the finals.
The flip side is though, don't you think that like for a team like Vitality or a team like Furia or you guys or anybody whose primary objective being there is to make Pro League, do you think there'd be an element of, I guess, strat saving would be the word? People always joke about, they're saving strats for the major, they're saving strats for the major. But for this one, if you have a tournament where literally you're playing the most important match of the tournament from your perspective afterwards, wouldn't it make sense to save strats and to play like a really vanilla brand of CS?
Yeah, I guess, but you don't really have to save like all the strats. I mean, it's like obviously like the save the strats thing is like a thing, but it's like when people say that, it's just like mainly the newer stuff you work on. Like you don't have to necessarily pug, but like you'll mainly just run scrimmier plays in the matches, like mainly versus the teams that you'd actually play in the finals or like whatever relegation stuff like that.
Okay. One other thing I want to talk about is just obviously so historically at the Global Challenge there has sort of been a gulf, I would say, between the North American teams and the European teams. That's not always the case. Sometimes you'll have an NA team that's got a little bit more strength, but it did seem apparent this time where again, apart from Furia, there was not a lot of success from the non-European teams in terms of getting to playoffs, in terms of making the bracket or really making their way through the global challenge. What do you view as sort of being, I guess I'd say, the root cause of that, and how do you view that as a goal, or I guess how do you approach playing European competition?
I just think it's not because there's a huge gap in NA versus EU anymore. It's just because EU MDL and EU Pro is so much more stacked than NA MDL, or not EU Pro, because EU Pro and NA Pro I'd say are pretty similar in terms of teams, but NA MDL and EU MDL is literally like different. Like bottom NA MDL is literally like top EU, mid EU advanced. Like it's literally disgusting. There's so much talent over there, but like the gap at the top isn't that big. But I mean, I think Sprout is like the 28th team. They're like the maybe top 25. And then I know Spirit was like, I think of the top 30. They were either like 29 or 31 or something like that. And then ATK is like 50 or something. We were mid 40s at the time of coming into it. So, and then Fury Vitality were just like fucking like 2 and 5. So like no one on our team thought we were gonna win that like event. Like honestly, just because like we would have to run into Vitality at some point, and yeah. So it's just kind of because there's a lot, like EU MDL is just way more stacked than any MDL.
Okay. So wrapping up MDL, when we were talking about it actually before the event, one of the things that you said to me was one of the reasons why this final was so important to you and to the team in general was sort of the lesson you had taken away from the last run around, which was that you didn't know how long this team would stay together. One of your big concerns was that somebody would get poached, somebody would move up to a different organization or get bought out, and that this might be the last hurrah, and potentially this run through relegation as well might be the last hurrah for this 5. 2 questions. First of all, do you still have that fear? Do you think someone might get poached? And second, like, how does that change the motivation going through it?
I personally think at least one of our players, I think 2 will get poached if we do not make pro. So I think if anything, that makes us more motivated because we all love each other. We're a family, and we all want to play with each other. We all want to play with each other at the top. None of us want to go to another team like a Complexity or fucking like United or anything. You know, like we're a family. Like that's how this team has been for pretty much almost like a year and a half now. Like, because the core of Hydrex, OC, and Ryan have been together since last April. So, if anything, it's just motivating us more because, like you said, this could be the last hurrah. This could be the last time we play together as a family. So, if we want to keep it that way, then we need to, work our asses off and make sure we stay a family.
Okay, that's a really nice sentiment. That family atmosphere. Obviously, at this point, you guys are playing in a house together. You're in a team house. Do you think that's built that family atmosphere?
We've had it like forever, pretty much. Even when Vanity and Food were on the team, it was kind of like strong. Like when I first joined the team, that's the one thing I noticed is no one on the team was afraid to criticize each other and like joke with each other and stuff like that. It was literally like 5 brothers. It was perfect. I've never seen a team like that that's so open to criticism as of set 5. There's not one person on this team right now that's bad at taking criticism. We constantly criticize each other as players. Like we're always working to make each other better. So, yeah.
Does that make your job easier as a coach? I mean,
yes. Yes. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, a little. You don't really like have to handle anybody with kid gloves. They understand it and can take it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. So just wrapping up our timeline. We've got the minor. Obviously, that is, again, one of the most important tournaments you guys have ever played. You're in Berlin. You're traveling internationally again, playing against some really serious competition. What's the mentality going into that event? Obviously, you big folks had been on it. I know the night before, I think Sheikh Zula popped up in a chat for a stream that I was doing or for something that I was doing, and it was like 4:00 a.m. Berlin time. So what was it? Obviously, you come in, there's jet lag to deal with, there's international competition again. How's the team doing going into that tournament?
We were pretty okay, so we didn't know what to think until the groups were drawn. But when the groups were drawn, we were super confident because we did get the easier group, but even though like Energy was still in it, and like Sharks ended up being a very good team. We did get the easier group, so we honestly thought we could have made it at least to top 4. But I personally thought we were like we were gonna make the plan, like 100%. I thought we were gonna make the plan, but Sharks, we kind of underestimated them. Like they really showed up, and yeah, we did not expect that. Like in that Nuke game, we got ran over 16-8, and I got really mad at the team. I think that kind of sparked them into the next day when we beat Team One, and then when we beat Sharks on Nuke, I thought for sure like we were just gonna take the series because like they've never played Vertigo on HLTV except against Fury at one time. They got 16-5. I was like, nice, this is gonna be free. Then we got 16-8 and then lost on Train. So yeah, I mean, it was kind of a bummer because we had really high expectations for both events and we were really confident, and it just kind of like failed expectations. And not of anyone else, just we all had expectations of ourselves. We kind of failed them.
Have you noticed growth between these events? Like
yes, a ton.
Okay. In what ways? Like anything specific or just?
I mean, we realized like our biggest issue is like towards the later ends of the games we just collapse as a team, and that happened in both Berlin and in Dallas for the NDL land. So like now that we recognize that issue, it's going to be a lot easier to in the future like be a better team and like just be better, I guess.
Okay. Do you also think that just like obviously these are sort of I guess events on a grander scale to what you've played in the past, to what players have played in the past, traveling to Berlin to compete on the minor with known household names being broadcast out, a little bit of a different scale than playing Atlantic City.
Yeah. That land was insane, by the way. It was the best land I've ever been to. It was so computers ran the game at like 700 FPS in game. It was insane.
That's gnarly. So I mean, like, do you think just going through this, just getting used to it, is that contributing to an improvement as well?
Yeah. I think that was our second international land, maybe third. I want to say second. So, our third. It was a third because of Copenhagen Games and WSG. So, I guess that we just need an experience. Like, we're the youngest team in the top 50 on HLTV. We're 20.2, I believe. So after we lost versus Sharks, we kind of just like realized like I told the guys, it's like I'm proud of you, but like me and Alan Sheikh Zula pretty much said like we're literally the youngest team. Like there's nothing to worry about. Like this is gonna happen. You have to lose to win because I mean that's the truth. Losing is a part of winning. No team ever is gonna come out of the gate when they make a 5. Even in like basketball, football, anything, like no expansion team is ever gonna win the finals the first year. You have to like mold together as a team, and like this team has only been together for like 4 months now, like 3.5. So like we're still a really young team, and like all of us are really young, and we just need to experience the game more. Like that's all it comes down to.
Okay, you were talking about I mean you talked about the fact that the team tends to run cold towards the ends of games, have trouble closing them out, sort of collapse in on themselves. Do you think part of that, obviously, you're very famous for being the loud guy on LAN. I was seeing some comments after, I think during the minor, people were like, what is he on? Like he's coking during the game. It's like, no, this is just
amphetamines. That's the common one.
That's just how this man rolls. But do you think that fire that you guys bring into the initial game, that you in particular bring in, do you think that once maybe things start going against you, once a few rounds get lost or some mistakes get made, do you think that almost becomes like a double-edged sword? Do you think it comes back to bite you at all?
Almost, because I feel like, or no, I know our team is very momentum based, and it's been like that since we were Guerrilla Gang. Like, Vanity is like the most momentum based IGL in the world, I think, right? So yeah, we've always been a momentum based team. It's like you said, a double edged sword. Like, if we win 5 rounds in a row, we're gonna have so much confidence. We're gonna mow you over. But if we're like at 10-5 and it goes to 10-8 and then like 11-9, that's when we start like losing. Like towards the end when it gets close, it's honestly just like lack of experience and nerves. Like as much as it kind of sucks to say, but we'll get there one day.
Okay. And you talked about, like, now that you've recognized this as a tendency, it's easier to combat. Do you have any particular ideas in place, or is there anything in particular you're looking to do to sort of try and fix that, or is it just a difference in, like, the way you talk to the team, or the mentality you try and bring in?
Yeah. We have a couple ideas. Mainly just like me calling tax late in the game and telling people you got to work together. Like we have to calm. Like everything dies out. It's almost like a flame that just I'm personally slowly watching just dwindle down and burn away. Like so.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just mainly like we just need to play, like recognize when it's happening and just play together. Like stop freaking out, stop panicking. The game's not over because it's 14-7 on Nuke versus Furia, or the game's not over because it's fucking whatever score, like 10-5, 11, like 15-5. It's not over. We need to be calm, and like even when it's 5-10, the game's not over. Like we need to like keep pushing constantly until we have 16 rounds. And I think that's like a huge lesson we learned, is that we just need to keep pushing the entire game.
Now, obviously, some changes have been made in the team. Limpone was just announced as coming on as a coach/analyst. He said something about he's been working with the team for a little while now. When did he actually start working with you guys?
I believe he's been working with us. Jesus, almost like 3 months. So, or maybe 2.5. But yeah, he's been working with us for a while. Like he's been really killer in the analysis, and he like reviews a lot of our game, or like every single one of our games, and yeah, he's helping with the anti-stratting too, the vetoes. Like it's really nice to have him because he has a really good mindset about the game, and especially since he's from EU, he'll be really helpful with like the EU teams that will play in international lands when we make them.
How did that whole arrangement come about? Like, what was that motivated by the org? Was that motivated by you guys, or how did it come to be?
So our org owner just apparently knew Limpone, and I was like, and he literally was just like, "Hey man, can you give Limpone a call? He's interested in being an analyst." And I was like, "Sure." And so it just kind of happened like that. We literally just kind of woke up one day and Limpone was my analyst, basically.
That's pretty good. Falls right in your lap. So you said he's like sort of self-scouting, almost like it's like opposition research is what they call it, where you look into yourself and see scouting tendencies that way as an analyst, and then also helping you anti-strat. How active is he? Like, is he in the server with you guys? Are you guys meeting? Like, how does that relationship work?
Well, we have a meeting usually about once a week. It's hard to get him in the server because he works nights, and it's night in Sweden when we're scrimming, basically. It's kind of shitty hours, like, because he's in Sweden, but it's just really nice to have that extra mind. Just more the merrier, right? Especially if he's really good. I mean, he's literally JW's brother, so
got that CS blood.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone knows that's how it works. What is it? The old Steel quote? It's genetics.
Yeah, he got the brains. I guess JW got the brawn.
CS brawn. There you go.
Yep.
So actually talking about your owner, Adel, is
Atle.
All right, I'm messing that up.
No, everyone calls him Adel.
He's gonna take his jersey back. Speaking of which, I have it like right here. Just gonna shout outs to Singularity. Big thanks. Oh, he's got the jersey. Yours is customized. Mine's not quite that fancy. But he's a really exciting owner to meet because he is so invested in you guys and so personally invested in you guys, and just so excited to see success and to see, I think, continued growth, which is kind of amazing. First of all, it's just amazing that an EU org invested into NA talent, because that's like the opposite of what normally happens, and it just makes me happy. But what does it meant for you and for the team in general to have that kind of org support at this level of competition?
I don't know. It's just so amazing. Like, especially since it's our first org. Sorry.
Good round.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, especially. Cool.
Nuggets.
Sorry.
No worries.
Okay.
Team house.
Yeah.
Life.
So it's really just nice having like that constant support, and like he's almost like a father figure to the team. He's like the father of the team, pretty much. So, it's just so not like all of us know that we'll never get this kind of support from another org again. And like we really want to win to like make him proud, basically. Like, cause he took a ballsy ass investment by investing into us. Like, we're literally Guerrilla Gang. We were like just some random FPL mixed team. So
yeah. I
love
mean,
that guy.
It is pretty incredible, and it's interesting to hear about the way that plays into motivation for it. I think it builds on what you were talking about. I mean, you talked about him as like a father figure, right? Where you're talking about the team as a family, and it's interesting to me because this is almost kind of the way that the Brazilian teams talk about playing as a unit, right? I mean, obviously this was a big part of the old Kaboom Luminosity, then the SK lineup. They always talked about being a family, living in a house coming up, with the Dead was there, obviously Zeus was there. They had that whole family atmosphere, and you see it again with Furia in a lot of ways, where they do act very much as a family. There's a lot of close relationship between the org and the players and the coach and all that. Do you think that, I guess, the dynamic and the journey of Singularity almost mirrors that kind of style?
Yeah, 100%. Because I mean, there's like 0 MDL teams that'll keep a core for like 6 months, let alone a year.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we've all literally known each other for at least like not like everybody knew each other, but like like Vanity knew Hydrex for like a couple years. I knew Ryan for 4. I knew OC for 3. Stuff like that. Like everybody kind of knew people, so it really kind of helped because everyone was friends with each other at first. So. It's really just kind of turned into a family.
Okay.
Like exactly like the Brazilian teams, almost, I'd say. So
now, peeking forward into the future, there's a huge challenge on the horizon. Obviously, it's Pro League relegation. I'm assuming you've got like that date circled on the calendar. That's sort of the big one. Now you come into that tournament. As you said, you don't know whether it's 2 or 3 spots yet. I don't think anybody knows. I'm not sure they know. It's really hard to figure that one out. But you're up against a pretty stacked lineup. You've got INTZ, Lazarus, NV, ATK, and then you guys. How are you feeling going into that?
Feeling very confident, but yeah, I guess we feel very confident always, all the time. We're just a confident, very confident team. Everyone's confident as a person. I guess. I personally expect us to beat every single one of those teams.
Okay.
Like, we're putting in a ton of work. Everyone's keeping their hours up. We're gonna have perfect amount of scrims. We're actually gonna go to the Chicagoland. That's coming up. So you're gonna be there too, right? Yep. Yeah. So get a nice little LAN before that. Like, help iron things out. Basic shit. So I personally think we should have a pro spot within the first week or second, or first go around or second go around. Doesn't matter. I think we should get it.
Okay. I like that confidence. I like it. Now, obviously, you guys have been sort of notorious. We talked about it with the last team, was like the word that described them was cocky. This team, there's still that confidence. As you said, you come into every tournament confident, but it's not, I don't know, I wouldn't describe it as cocky as it was previously. What would you say is sort of the prevailing mood of this team coming into relegation, now that you've come full circle back to it?
Now we're not cocky. We're confident, and I feel like there's a very big difference in that because, we kind of, not that we couldn't back it up, but just when we had Vanity, we were just I don't know how to explain it. Like, we were literally just cocky, and now we're confident. But yeah, I feel like we got a little bit almost humbled after these last 2 lands, but like not in a bad way, almost like just that we need to stop underestimating people, and we need to take every game as serious as possible, and like 110% every single game, every single scrim, everything. Like yeah, so we're still very confident, but we just kind of like realize there's no point to underestimate anyone now.
Okay.
Because we're not the underdog anymore. Like that's the biggest thing. Before, we were the underdog and we could upset teams, but now playing as the overdog, we need to, like, it's very weird. It's very weird going from underdog to
the overdog. Always a good term phrase. So I've got one last thing that I kind of want to talk about, and it's something that we sort of touched on earlier with your growth as a coach and how you came into the role, and how you were very new to it before you came on with the squad. Obviously, typically when you think of a coach, right, like your brain goes to like the older veteran imparting wisdom to the younger players. That's obviously not the case here. You're just as young as your teammates, if not younger than some of them. You're 18, right? 18, 19?
19, 19.
19.
Just turned 19, yeah.
There you go. Happy birthday. When was that?
June 5th.
Oh, okay,
So,
yeah. All right. So
thanks for the birthday wishes.
Yeah, there you go. Very late. So you're 19, very young. You're growing alongside these players. How do you think that impacts your relationship as a coach with them?
Well, I think I have a lot of energy, but I obviously have a lot of stuff to learn. I personally think, and I guess the team thinks it too, that I'm a pretty good emotional leader. But I personally still have some growing up to do because I'm 19. I joined the team when I was 18. And it's just life. Like I just got to grow up as much as everybody else here has to grow up. So I don't know, like Sean McVay of Counter-Strike.
There you go. I like it. Sean McVay of Counter-Strike. That could be the title. Mac, the Sean McVay of Counter-Strike.
Ooh, you got to. That's perfect. That's literally perfect.
I think we got it right there. That's a nice place to wrap it up. Mac, thank you so much for joining me. We've been
That was a pleasure, man.
For a while now, so thank you for putting up with all of my questions. Obviously, I'm excited to see you guys next week in Chicago, and I'm very excited to see how you guys do in relegation as well. Any parting thoughts you want to leave, or anything about like where this team is going?
I don't want to say anything because I kind of had some cocky interviews before, so
right.
Let's just say we'll see on August 15th through the 19th where we're gonna go, either pro or back to the hellhole of fucking MDL.
Not to put the dichotomy a little too harshly, but yeah. All right. So either we're making pro or
back to hell
next time. Trying again next time. Thank you so much for joining me. This has been a lot of fun. This is obviously hopefully kicking off a few more Darf talks. Got some more stuff lined up, folks. So keep checking it out. They're gonna be coming up on this presumably YouTube channel. I've got to figure out video editing right now, so this is all going to be a little bit of an adventure. Thank you all for tuning in, joining me on the adventure, and Mac, thank you for starting it out with me. And we're going to wrap it there. Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in and watching this Darf Talks. I'm going to be bringing a whole lot more content to this channel soon, so if you enjoyed that interview, if you liked what you saw, please do consider liking and subscribing. I'm hoping to be able to bring you a whole lot more very shortly. So thank you for watching, and hopefully I see you next time.